Georgia Bulldogs are now underway at SEC Media Day speaking as we go here. And 4 teams take the stage at SEC Media Days on Tuesday. By the way, there's now 4 teams taking the stage every day because there's 16 teams in the conference, and the conference and the media days last 4 days. So the Georgia Bulldogs, the Tennessee Vols, the Oklahoma Sooners, and the Missouri Tigers are all taking center stage at SEC Media Days Day 2. And we are going to talk about the biggest questions facing those teams for this 4 downs. Starting with Georgia. I think Kirby Smart and Georgia's biggest question this year is just the criminal issues facing the team and the traffic issues. Look, there's no question about their talent. There's no question about Carson Beck, the player, and generational quarterback, may be the best in the SEC. And as high as I am on Nico, as an NFL draft scout, I would probably draft Carson Beck first over anybody. And I mean maybe anybody in college football at this point. But Georgia's had 19 traffic incidents since the Jalen Carter tragedy in January of 2023 after they won their second straight national championship. Georgia has had 1,000 different incidents of players just randomly getting involved in reckless driving, things like that. The truth of the matter is all of these incidents, almost every one of them post Jalen Carter, are things that you can see college kids doing. As Josh Pate said last week, it's one of those, you ever been at a movie theater or something or in a parking lot and you see a car doing something stupid and you're like, well, that guy was dumb. That's all you really saw them doing. And yeah, you don't kick players off the team for that. But if it keeps happening, and it's not the same player doing it, but if it keeps happening, do you have to change your punishment? It's tricky. I don't know the answer. But Kirby Smart's going into SEC Media Days and came into SEC Media Days within a week of 2 more Georgia arrests for reckless driving, including star linebacker Smell Munden Jr. So they got to address this. I don't know how. I don't know what they'll do. But there's just no way they can't address it. And that's a big problem. As for Tennessee football, and obviously that's unique to us, but you can see our article online now on offthehooksports.com on the major questions facing the Vols overall. We spoke a little bit about them on Monday, but part of that is Josh Heupel's taking the stage the same day as Oklahoma and Missouri. Another one is, why are Nico Iamaleava and James Pierce not there? Because those are the 2 biggest stars for Tennessee. We have broken that down at length. Is Tennessee football all in for 2024? They made a lot of moves with NIL and returning veterans. It seems they are super committed to trying to win big in 2024 specifically, even if it sacrifices the future. How special of leaders are Keenan Pili and Amari Thomas? I mean, Keenan Pili has played 1 game for Tennessee and was invited to SEC Media Days. Amari Thomas, on the other hand, is going to SEC Media Days as a defensive lineman for his 2nd straight year. Very few people go to SEC Media Days twice in general. Defensive linemen are not supposed to be leaders in general, but Amari Thomas as a defensive lineman going twice, that's a real big question. And then there is an on-the-field question of the defensive back rotation, the left guard, and the running back for the Vols. Who will step in for all of those roles? Because Tennessee football can't do what it wants to do unless all of those voids are filled. They have voids for different reasons. Tennessee didn't really have a left guard last year. They lost Jalen Wright at running back and Jabari Small, and they overhauled their secondary, just pretty much forced everybody into the transfer portal. So those are the major questions facing the program. I think the biggest one facing Tennessee, though, if I were to pick one, I would honestly say that the real question is, how much does Josh Heupel believe in Nico Iamaleava's star power? He didn't bring him to SEC Media Days, which was weird. The story is that Joe Milton caused a drop-off at quarterback last year, which is why the offense couldn't do what it usually does, which is why Tennessee went from 11-2 to 9-4. The other story is that Nico Iamaleava is going to restore Tennessee football's offense to what it's supposed to be. I happen to think that Nico Iamaleava was a quarterback created in a lab to run Josh Heupel's system and is transcendently great. So if all that is true, how much does he believe in Iamaleava's star power, and does he agree with me? And is that why I believe he's all in on 2024? But again, if that's all true, why wouldn't Nico go to SEC Media Days? I mean, again, 11 of 16 SEC schools brought quarterbacks. It's the year of the quarterback in the SEC. There's a lot of star quarterbacks everywhere. It's weird that a guy like Nico, who could end up being the best of all of them, doesn't end up going to SEC Media Days. So that's a question I would truly ask Josh Heupel. So Georgia's criminal issues is 1st down. Tennessee's expectations for Nico Iamaleava is 2nd down. 3rd down, Josh Heupel's former school. Is Oklahoma prepared for SEC Media Days league play? I mean, or for SEC league play, excuse me. That's the question they need to ask at SEC Media Days. Is the same one you asked for Texas. Nothing's really going to change for them. I mean, Oklahoma is coming into the league with a new quarterback in Jackson Arnold, who is his own Nico in a certain way because people believe in him as a potential superstar. They have a coach in Brent Venables who just got a gigantic contract extension because of 1-10-3 season. Now 10-3 in the Big 12. There were a lot of questions about the Big 12. So will they be able to maintain that in the SEC? Honestly, I don't know. And a key game, funny enough, will be Tennessee, Oklahoma at the end of September. That'll be a telling sign of where Josh Heupel and Brent Venables stand as head coaches. I think Josh Heupel does have to win that game. And obviously, there's a storyline of Josh Heupel getting fired by Oklahoma in 2014 because Bob Stoops wanted to scapegoat him for the issues they had that year. The truth of the matter was, it goes even deeper. It wasn't just protecting his brother Mike Stoops as defensive coordinator. Bob Stoops tried to force the Johnny Manziel RPO offense onto Josh Heupel with Trevor Knight. Heupel insisted that Knight couldn't run it. It created a catastrophe. It didn't work. And as a result, you had what happened in 2014, Josh Heupel being scapegoated. He's never forgiven Oklahoma. And people will say they mended fences. I don't believe they have. But that's kind of a really interesting point. And that's definitely something worth looking into. But again, in general, Oklahoma's question is the same as Texas. Are they ready for SEC play? Can they handle the league? We honestly don't know. And we probably won't know for a while. So I got to be, again, I don't know for sure. But it's a little bit odd where Oklahoma's standing on this before we get to Fourth Down, the show brought to you by Newberg Collision Center.
Its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
All right, fourth down. Missouri taking the podium on Tuesday. Their ability to maintain success. Eli Drinkwitz shocked everybody by just going 5-5 his first year at Missouri because that seemed like a total disaster of a program. Then post-COVID, he goes 6-7 in back-to-back years, and it doesn't seem like he can do anything better. And then 2023 comes, and he shocks the world by going 11-2. The real story was week 3 when they beat Kansas State 30-27 with Chris Kleiman as Kansas State's head coach, Colin Klein as their offensive coordinator. That was a big win for Missouri. They also had a pretty solid win against Memphis, a solid Memphis program. Their losses were LSU, who they put up a fight against, and number 2, Georgia. No shame in that. They beat Kentucky on the road. They obviously beat South Carolina at home. And then to prove they were legit and it wasn't a fluke, they blew out Tennessee in November where Eli Drinkwitz changed his whole game plan to get that win. I don't care about the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State. Those New Year's Six Bowls meant nothing last year. Well, that's not a word. Those New Year's Six Bowls meant nothing last year because Ohio State didn't care to be there. However, the Tennessee win was legit. The Kentucky win was legit. The Kansas State win was legit. But he did change up everything for his game plan to beat Tennessee. And his other wins were South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Florida, and Arkansas. That's 6 wins against teams that had losing records last year. And then you can add a 7th in Memphis because even though Memphis did go 10-3 with Ryan Silverfield and did very well, they are a group of 5 schools. So that's 7 wins they should have had. Ohio State didn't have anybody in the Cotton Bowl. That's actually 8 wins they should have had. So Kansas State and Tennessee are their only impressive wins. Kentucky's not a bad win since it was on the road, but Kentucky did go 6-6. So that's the big question facing Missouri. Are they legit? Some people are talking about what are SEC media days. That's a great question by Barry Allen. It's an old part of tradition just for the league. It started back in, I think with players coming, goes back to 1989. It's just kind of an unofficial way to kick off the college football preseason. Now, I don't know how this is going to go in the future because so many teams are joining conferences and you're going to have super conferences. And I do think you're going to have more of a need to spread things out in the calendar years. But the truth of the matter is SEC Media Days is just kind of the same with all the other conference media days, is an unofficial way to be able to kick off the season. Derek says, I gave absolutely no credit to Missouri and Eli. No, I think Eli's actually a very good offensive coach Derek. But he did change up his entire game plan for Josh Heupel. Now that is an indictment against Heupel for not adjusting on the fly in the middle of the game. But by that point, Tennessee was loaded with injuries, riddled with injuries. They were limited at quarterback. So there's questions over what he could have done in that moment.